Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of go through with you guys, our overall vision, and it's, I'm not going to hold back at all, which is it's pretty interesting because a lot of times when I have to kind of give these presentations, we're always trying to like make it fit into the current paradigm in terms of like business and whatnot. But really, this is a completely different paradigm of even what it means, what a home buying experience means, and what it means to really build a home and community. So, I'm kind of going through a deck here that is kind of designed for like investors. So I'll sort of just use some of it. And essentially we're manufacturing affordable natural homes, really to steward the regenerative future. So why we consider it a natural home because there's no metal, there's no wood, there's no concrete, there's no petrochemicals. It's all bioceramic. Even the frame, the insulation material is a air entrained bioceramic, or actually it's a geopolymer that's entrained with air. And the frames and exterior and interior are all bioceramic. And it's literally, like calcium, potassium, magnesium, and phosphate, really similar to the chemical composition of human bone. I mean, the same material that they're repairing bones with in the human body, we built this entire structure out of. And there's this whole kind of regenerative raw materials industry that is coming up around geopolymers in general, but specifically these kind of bioceramic chemistries. So, at a high level, and this is kind of the climate housing crisis, right? This is not news to anybody. Everybody knows houses cost too much. They're not sustainable. We use a lot of toxic chemicals in order to make them degrade more slowly, essentially. And that's really one of the differences with a ceramic dome versus like a wood box house, is that in a wood box, you've got load-bearing walls. Everything is kind of constantly under stress. And you've got all these kind of toxic chemicals that are used to make the wood and the structure degrade more slowly. But with the ceramic dome, everything is in tensegrity, right? Everything is like in a sort of state of homeostasis, in a sense, like it's adjusting, and it's a living structure in that sense. And the materials are actually getting stronger over time and can be designed to last for, thousands of years, like we see the ancient structures that are still standing today. And of course, bioceramics, we're using like carbon fiber and hemp fiber to reinforce the ceramics. So it's really like ultra high strength materials, 20, 30,000 PSI in compressive strength, and close to the tensile strength of steel when you use these. Bioceramic is it's an inorganic polymer that actually bonds to the carbon fibers or hemp fibers. And of course, just the way that not only the design of the houses, but just the design of the kind of housing developments really disconnect us from nature and from community. Of course, it's been 100 years, and essentially we're building in pretty much the same way, at a really fundamental level of like materials and geometry, the same way we were a long time ago. So I would say the deeper problem that we're addressing is really the archetype of home. It's not designed for regenerative living. We think, today when people buy a home, it's like the key considerations are generally, it's like, is it keeping you warm? Is it keeping the rain off your head? It's like base needs, right? That home fulfills today. And in the future, a home buying experience can be where you're building a home that connects you to nature, even though you're inside the home. Connect to nature through a process where the communities come together first online. So you're connecting and building community relations before the homes are ever manufactured and installed. So home buying is connection to nature. It's building healthy community relationships. And when those villages are actually startup societies, right? We're actually coming together with around a common purpose of some sort. And ideally we have like complementary gifts that we carry that can all kind of work together so that home buying is connection to nature, healthy community relations, alignment with purpose, and really livelihood and sustenance, all in the kind of home buying experience of the future. So, you know, that's a big idea, or like something to happen, right? And why is that possible is because, you know, I think it really starts with the economic engine. And these ceramic geodesic domes are like just an incredible economic engine to kind of unlock this regenerative village future in a lot of ways. And it's really why ceramic geodesic domes is because if you break home building down to like physics first principles, like material science, what materials are using, what is the geometry, and how are you making it? You know, what's the method of manufacturing? And really fundamentally, geopolymers are like the most low embodied energy, high strength, healthy, especially bioceramic materials that you can use. The geometry of the geodesic dome really minimizes the amount of materials that are required to enclose space. And there's no cross beams, and it's like, you know, with 3D printing, for instance, it's really a wall building technology. This is a, you know, full structure building technology. It's the roof too. With 3D printed houses, they usually use a conventional roof. So material science, geometry, and the method of manufacturing, fundamentally, there's only really 3 or 4 methods of manufacturing. You're either cutting something out of stock, or you're 3D printing it, or you're extruding or molding it. And of course, like, I'm not talking about hand-built stuff on the land, you know, that's a different kind of type of building. But when it comes to at scale, I think these ceramic geodesic domes that are molded, precast in factories, highly automated kind of injection molding processes, can just be the most affordable and sustainable homes on Earth, like period, just based on physics, right? The geometry and the materials and the way that we're manufacturing. So that's why we feel like this is a key technology that's like an economic engine that sort of unlocks this, you know, regenerative village future in a lot of ways. So the bioceramic dome, we're essentially redefining success in wellness and safety with the bioceramic dome. And I won't go down the rabbit hole right now of like how architecture can kind of resonate biologically, what it means to have kind of high dielectric materials and geometry that focuses energy into the center. But essentially like pyramids and stone circles, like what is that? They're creating a intentional kind of quality of space, you know, that, and we actually now there's apparatus coming out, like a gas discharge, where you can measure the rate of charge distribution in the air and see that, like, you know, when you walk into certain spaces, you feel like, hey, you feel, I mean, basically centered and balanced. You know, the words that come to mind immediately. And of course, the sound is these. You notice the faceting on the wall panels. That makes it so that it's like there's no echo, right? It's like but you feel that same. You still feel that like walking into a cathedral or something. The hair on the back of your neck stands up, and you're like, wow, this is a cool space. But there's echo. So this is like the perfect silent echo in that sense. And we think this is really the potential to really redefine what the purpose of architecture is, right? To actually create spaces that, one, you know, that kind of stone circle pyramid thing is kind of next level, but more basic is like, there's no toxic chemicals. There's nothing for mold to grow on. The floors are like earthing floors, so you're connected to the earth. you have these kind of great circle skylights. So you feel really connected to the earth and sky inside the home. And really designing to last for 500 years. So it's like a design life. Our goal as we design the product and material science and everything is to build homes that last for 500 years. And ultimately at scale, I think we'll be able to sell homes for like under $60 a square foot. Like that's a extremely, you know, ambitious in terms of like, maybe it's 10 to 15 years until we scale to that level to be able to sell homes for that low cost. But ultimately, I think this technology puts us on a trajectory of just radical affordability, as well as all these health and ecological benefits. So if we look a little closer at sort of the quality, like, let's see, life cycle CO2 emissions, if we just look at, you know, it comes down to recurrent, embodied, and operational energy. And the ceramic dome is just dramatically lower in all those areas. We've had kind of a third-party carbon analysis done where we just show that, like, you know, the embodied energy of the materials to enclose the same amount of floor space as a conventional wood box is about somewhere between 85 and 95% reduced embodied CO2. And this dome has about a 10-inch thick insulation cavity, and it's a very tight envelope and minimal kind of thermal bridging, because it's just the way it's designed is minimal thermal bridging. And the ceramic has this heat reflective property, so it's reflecting radiant heat. So basically passive house level insulation. So very low operational energy as well. And low recurrent energy, because there's no roof to replace, there's no paint, there's no, you know, you could resurface the dome with the same material that it's made from. If damage happens, you can like basically mix up ceramic on site and make a basic repair. So really low recurrent energy as well. And this, so we say, you know, 90 to 99% reduced carbon footprint. I talked a little bit about the construction cost there, you know, kind of entering the market. Our goal is to be just below what conventional housing is, maybe 20% below in villages, right? So we're talking about building, we kind of start with retreat centers and backyard studios, but ultimately the goal is, you know, to build villages and developments that are intentional. So the community is engaged in the design and construction of the village. At a health level, I mentioned a few of these things already, just like 100% non-toxic materials, mold resistant, and actually the same material is used on hospital floors for its antibacterial properties. And it actually emits far infrared light. Tom Brady puts bioceramic powders in the threads of his underwear because it takes the body's heat and reflects it back in the far infrared spectrum. So you have this big, like, you know, far infrared sauna that you're living in a sense. Really like crazy exciting technology for home building in the future. And especially when we can use it in this way of like village building platform plus cooperative model, multi-stakeholder cooperative model. So Geoship, we have been, all of our fundraising, we have not gone to like VCs, we've just gone to like the crowd in a sense. And of course, it's been a little bit slower process of development, but it kind of ensures that we can ultimately have a company that is owned 50% by customers and nature stakeholders. So the equity will actually be distributed to customer stakeholders and stewards of nature through a project that we're working on with called Earth Equity with the Maori tribe in New Zealand. The business model, so this kind of gets into like, you know, that's what's interesting is like the investment opportunity is fucking crazy too, because it's just like the Tesla of home building in a sense, like mass manufacturing of affordable, sustainable homes. So this is just kind of talking through like costing and why we can get to that $60 a square foot number ultimately, because it's raw minerals that we're turning into finished homes. right? There's no building products. We're kind of completely vertically integrated in that way of just using raw minerals and turning them into finished houses. Of course, the interior and stuff, we see actually the potential to build kind of a cottage industry around the ceramic domes that are based on sacred economics, right? To get the artists and owned by the artists and creators based on the kind of Charles Eisenstein's view of like sacred economics and how we bring that gift consciousness back into how these homes are built and kind of designed, and ultimately all the cabinets and countertops and kind of off-grid systems can come through a cottage industry around them. Traction, yeah. So, of course, first dome installed, we've got a pretty good sales pipeline, and we haven't done any marketing really yet. I mean, we don't have a marketing team and stuff. It's just me and my co-founder doing a little bit here and there as we need to like raise capital to keep going, but we haven't really marketed in that sense. All of our capital has really gone to engineering and material science work. It's a blue ocean strategy, and that basically we're creating a new market through differentiation and low cost, and kind of introducing factors that aren't even part of what people think about when they buy homes today in terms of like natural materials, natural geometry, village building, holistic wellness, this kind of ultra efficiency and long life. So we're kind of introducing factors that create a new market. So it's technically a blue ocean. They call it blue ocean strategy. Of course, it's a huge, huge global market for home building, like insane. One of the comments from VC, have talked to a couple of VCs just to like have a conversation. I'm just trying to learn from them, essentially, like Sequoia Capital. And they're like, oh, it's an infinite market, infinite TAM, right? Total addressable market is infinite. So this gets again just into kind of what I mentioned earlier in terms of radical affordability, whole person healing, nature connection, community vision when you're bringing people together to participate in the development and design of their village, and earth stewardship. Ultimately, essentially this is affordable natural homes to kind of catalyze the regenerative future. And we're starting with creative studios and exotic hotels, exotic hoteliers, which really make it so that the first installs can be experienced by a lot of different people. And then we grow into regenerative villages. So we're working with an organization that is kind of like a DAO builder in a sense for communities to come together in a digital space and like eventually build strong relations, eventually crowdfund land, simulate their domes and build, or it doesn't have to be, when we talk about village building, we're not talking about just ceramic geodesic domes. That's just like one alternative, but there's a lot of kind of natural home building technologies that can actually really be supported by these materials in some ways. Like you can use them in a lot of different ways on site as a thin coating that goes like a stucco kind of coating, and just a lot of different applications for natural building in general. And I'd say that a lot of amazing, like transformational companies are often built on general and surprising insights. And there's two of those happening here. And one is like, in the future, we won't live in boxes. It's kind of crazy. It's like every single house, every single neighborhood in the United States of America is rectilinear. Like there's not really like, if you choose you want to live in a different geometry, it's more expensive and it's way harder. And it's not really a choice. So in the future, we're opening up that choice. And also people will populate the land from the cloud, right? So just how villages will be built in the future, come together online. And this is just, I'm talking about like how humans will flourish on Earth and build villages and infrastructure in the future. It's just a different model that we're starting to introduce now. How much time do I have left?
About 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. And I want to make sure I save a little bit of time for questions at the end, but there is a lot of parallels here in terms of like, this is a new material science. It was developed in, first invented in 1996, commercialized in 2005. It's pretty much revolutionizing quite a few different industries right now. And we are really, there's one other company that applied it to architecture. So it's like been, you know, multi-story buildings in the US built with them, with this material, but we're really, you know, taking it to this next level. And it's really creating a new industry. So like electric vehicles, I think ceramic homes will be like a complementary, a different home building industry, because it's a whole new raw material industry around it. And like I talked about, a little bit of like a cottage industry, sacred economics that can also be built around these ceramic domes. And ultimately the mission is to, you know, really facilitate a cultural renaissance. So we've, a few months ago, we declared our Earthshot, and our Earthshot is to make the best home on earth the most affordable one, and scale manufacturing to 1 million ceramic domes per year by 2037. And that's a little faster than what it took Tesla Motors to get to 1 million cars a year. So, you know, that's our, and it's interesting to think of like the best home on earth, the most affordable one. So what does best mean? You know, we'll have very specific like objective measurements of best in terms of carbon reduction and health and cost and, you know, climate resilience and speed of construction, or all these things. And I think that ceramic domes can just win in all those categories. So literally build the best home on earth, and then through mass manufacturing, make it the most affordable home on earth. I'll kind of skip this slide a little bit. It's just basically a little like funding history. We've raised $2 or $3 million to kind of get to this point. You know, my co-founder and I have actually been working on Geoship for about 7 years full-time together. We burned the boats in 2014. I literally sold my wooden sailboat that I had lived on and kind of sailed all around the Pacific on for 6 or 7 years. And we got a little barn on an island on Whidbey Island, and started developing this technology, and just, you know, totally grassroots kind of start. And it's been a little bit of it's been a slow process for sure, but we see just the power of this technology. If we can bring it into the world with this cooperative business model and village building platform that's like baked into it, it can really be powerful. So we wanted to make sure that we just take our time and do it in the right way, essentially.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I want everyone to drop in the chat what they would use their Geoship for. I would use it as a meditation space and acoustic space, as well as housing. And we can move into any questions as well that you guys have for Morgan. Tell us more about the $99 ability to join as an investor.
Oh yeah,
that's listed on your website.
Yeah, it's on right now. It's on republic.com. So the link is here, republic.com/geoship. And yeah, for $99, you basically own shares in the company, and kind of you're investing alongside. We'll have some. We just had Bodie Miller just joined our advisory, right? Like the 6 Olympic gold medal winner skier. And we're just kind of starting this process of really reaching out to these bigger kind of family offices and bigger funding, as well as government grants and loans. So it was really important to us that basically we open up these crowdfunding rounds so people can invest as little as $100 alongside the big investors that will come in eventually at a better rate. And I would say also the $99 is it gives you first access to making pre-orders for the domes, and if you invest more than I think $1,000, you get a free pre-order. So it's a kind of the first step in the buying process too, is really buying shares in the mission.
I have a
Josh,
couple questions.
Oh, I see Josh
sorry.
has his hand up, and then you, James.
Sure.
Just real quick. I know you're focused a lot on the technology for the domes itself right now, and you've mentioned a couple of times the online gathering to like design the communities together with a group of people. Is that kind of a next, not super focused on that right now, or when's your timeline of when we can start exploring how to gather online and start exploring like the village design process?
Pretty soon, later this year. It hasn't been a focus yet, but with this funding that we're raising now, a pretty good portion of that will go into building that platform. Where, like I said, we're actually, if you go to buildcities.network, that's a company that we're collaborating with now that's already built out a lot of the platform, and we're starting to kind of use it.
Thank you. Go for it, James.
Yeah, thanks. It's kind of a follow-on question, I guess, to that is if the couple things, if there's Revit files and if there's this kind of data-driven opportunity to incorporate the Geoship design thinking into some of the village designs that we're looking at. There's some particular locations, for instance, that I think that the dome shape especially is relevant for. That's the first question. The second is, we talked about this before when we had our call, I don't know when it was, a year and a half ago, about the polymer itself and whether or not that can be something that can be just as a cladding, be applied to other kinds of typologies. So those were my two questions. Yeah,
so definitely the kind of 3D files, we can work with you. We'd love to work with you to put together a vision for a regenerative village. And that's, I think, one of the services that we will be able to support communities with as they form a DAO online, and then be able to just have a configurator essentially where they can configure a dome and then configure a village, and then so they have a clear vision that they can use to bring other people on board and funding and whatnot. And your other question about the polymer in general, yeah, one of our investors from 2020 is working with a group that is building quantum cities, right? So they have there's a few billionaires getting together to build kind of quantum cities. And so this material, it's the same, like they don't want to use metal and concrete as much as like carbon fiber and ceramics. So it's really similar. There's a lot of ways that it's an inorganic polymer. So it's like a ceramic, and then it's covalent and ionic bonding and highly crystalline, but it all happens at room temperature, like a cement, but it bonds to everything. So it forms molecular bonds with wood and metal and concrete. So there's a whole bunch of different applications that are really possible with this ceramic material.
All right. Hey, Morgan, I got a question.
Okay,
Yeah.
I believe
Thanks.
that brings us to the end of the time that we have. Let me check if there's a little bit of extra space for anybody. One last question. Let's see.
Do you mind if I ask a question or?
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Morgan, do you have any interior shots of what the layout would look like, where the bathroom would go, kitchen?
Yeah, we're just about to publish. We have some on our website. If you look at it, real basic, we're just about to publish some more detailed floor plans and kind of interiors of bigger domes.
Oh, fantastic. And one other question, you have a picture of a larger dome. I think it says it's a prototype. It's in the carousel on your website where you have pictures of the dome you're in decorated by a designer. But you have a bigger picture of it, looks like a larger dome. Is that the 30-foot one, or how big is that one?
That's not actually the larger dome. It's the same one. It's just the angle, makes it look bigger.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
make sure you
everybody feel
screenshot his
free to
contact
message me.
information.
Yeah, feel
We're
free to
gonna have
email
to-
me anytime if you have more questions and want to talk.
Mhm. We have to hop off because there's a session right after this. Thank you so much, Morgan. Thank you for everyone for participating, asking questions. Keep tabs on Geoship. It's definitely been a very exciting emerging venture, and I look forward to everything more that you do in the village building space.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Amazing.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Morgan. Awesome. Great job.